sky was wider, the fields greener, and the night darker than we can imagine now. People lived by the turning of seasons, by the patience of soil and sun. A craftsman's hand shaped the world more than any engine could. Each village carried its own heartbeat, each life tied gently to the land. But curiosity has always been our most restless companion. Somewhere in the dim light of a workshop, a hand turned a crank, and a spark of thought leaped from mind to metal. What if power didn't have to come from muscle, or from the mercy of wind and water? What if we could make our own power and teach it to work tirelessly through the night? The Industrial Revolution was not a single event, nor a single place. It was 1,000 small awakenings scattered across the old world, each one lighting the next like a candle passed from hand to hand. A coal mine here, a steam engine there, a weaver's loom learning a new rhythm. And as the years unfolded, the air began to hum with energy, with a promise both beautiful and heavy. From this hum rose cities that never slept, factories that glowed through the fog, and a new kind of life, one not measured by the rising sun, but by the clock on the wall. The world became faster, louder, brighter, and in the same breath, it became lonelier too. Yet beneath the smoke and iron, beneath the echo of hammers and the whistle of trains, there was something deeply human, a longing to create, to connect, to change the shape of the possible. The Industrial Revolution did not only give us machines, it gave us mirrors showing what we could become and what we might lose along the way. Tonight, as you drift into the story, we will walk together through that age of awakening, through its hopes, its shadows, its quiet triumphs. Let the rhythm of invention carry you softly, and if these words bring you closer to rest, let this channel stay by your side too. And so, as the night deepens, our story begins with the world before the smoke. Chapter 1: The Quiet Before the Smoke. Before the cities, before the engines, the world was slow in a way that now feels like a dream. Imagine standing on a hill somewhere in England in the year 1700. The air is cool, and the scent of damp earth and wood smoke drifts gently on the breeze. Below you lies a village, small and self-contained, its cottage scattered around a church steeple that marks the heart of its days. The sound of life is simple, a blacksmith's hammer striking the anvil, a shepherd calling to his flock, a child laughing as they chase the fading light. Everything that mattered came from the land: wool from the sheep, bread from the soil, light from the fire that burned low through the long evenings. There was no rush because time itself seemed endless. Each generation lived much like the one before, bound to the same fields, the same rhythms, the same quiet hope that the harvest would be kind. In that quiet world, work and rest were parts of the same breath. When the sun rose, so did the people. When the sun fell, the village dimmed, and the night reclaimed its stillness. Candlelight flickered through windows like fireflies, and stories were told not by machines, but by voices, slow, human, warmed. And yet beneath that peace there was struggle. For many, life was fragile. One bad harvest could bring hunger. One illness could change a family's fate. The beauty of simplicity carried a price, uncertainty. And somewhere in that quiet struggle, a restlessness began to stir. The first signs of change came quietly, almost invisibly. A new kind of loom in the small workshop, a water wheel turning with a sharper rhythm, a man named Newcomen watching steam lift the weight of a piston for the very first time. Small things, moments that would ripple through time. The world was still unaware of what was coming. Farmers continued to walk the furrows of their ancestors. Mothers still spun thread by the fire. Children still looked at the stars, not yet dimmed by the haze of cities that would soon rise to meet them. But somewhere coal was being pulled from the ground, black, dense, ancient, silent. And with every cartload, the future drew closer. It would not be long before that coal became the heartbeat of nations, the fire that forged empires, the light that would push back the night, and the smoke that would never quite clear. For now, though, the world sleeps in its last great silence. It breathes in the calm before the storm of progress, and if you listen closely, you can almost hear the first whisper of steam, the first pulse of iron beneath the earth. And so, as the candle burns lower, the night drifts onward, and our story moves quietly to its next chapter, toward the spark that would change everything. Chapter 2. The Spark in the Coal. The world's great changes rarely begin with thunder. They begin in corners, dim workshops, small thoughts, quiet dreams. And the spark that would one day light the engines of the world was not born in palaces or courts, but in the hands of ordinary men, bending over the stubborn weight of metal and fire. Coal had always been there, waiting in the dark. For centuries, people had burned wood, its smoke curling gently into the sky, its warmth familiar and forgiving. But wood was patient, and forests grew slowly. The hunger of towns and ships, of forges and furnaces, soon outpaced the trees. And beneath the earth, another fire waited, dense, black, ancient, silent. It was coal that whispered to the early dreamers of power. When struck, it shimmered like stone, but burned with a deeper flame, hotter, longer, unyielding. It was the breath of old worlds, forests that had fallen long before man had walked, compressed into something fierce and full of promise. And as men dug deeper to feed the growing towns, they found not just fuel, but a question that glowed brighter than any flame. What if the world itself could work for us? In England, the mind stretched downward like roots into
shadow. Miners worked by candlelight, faces streaked with dust and sweat, each breath heavy with the earth's breath. Water was their enemy, flooding the tunnels, drowning the veins of coal before they could be reached. For centuries, pumps were powered by horses or by men themselves, a ceaseless, aching struggle against the underground flood. Until, one evening, a man named Thomas Newcomen watched the steam rise from a kettle and wondered, what if that invisible force could do the lifting instead? His engine was crude, clumsy and enormous. It hissed and groaned like a living thing. A beam rose and fell, pistons sighed, and for the first time, steam, that invisible ghost of water, moved iron. The miners watched in awe as the pump worked without rest, drawing water from the earth with tireless strength. It was not beautiful, but it was alive, and in that hiss of pressure, the world took its first mechanical breath. The news spread slowly, like dawn touching the edges of the map. Inventors, tinkerers, and dreamers came to see it, some with wonder, others with envy. Among them was a man whose name would echo through centuries, James Watt. He saw in Newcomen's machine both brilliance and imperfection, a heart that could beat faster, stronger, with just a gentler touch. He reimagined the engine, refined its breath, taught it to work not only for the mines, but for the world above. Steam was no longer a curiosity. It was power, invisible, obedient and alive. It could drive wheels, pull looms, lift hammers. It could move ships against the tide and carry dreams across nations. And with that realization, humanity crossed a threshold it would never return from. Still, the world did not change all at once. In quiet towns, in rural fields, life carried on much as it always had. But far away, in the pulse of cities, the rhythm of work